Become a sustaining member of the Commonwealth Club for just $10 a month. Join today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn Weisinger, and I'm the Education Coordinator for the Commonwealth Club's new Education Department. I also just happen to be the President of San Francisco Pride, and today is the last day of Pride Month. And we are so excited to host here at the club this amazing panel, our Youth Talks, continuing conversation, and really giving youth the opportunity to speak with adults who work day to day in supporting them in their journey and coming out and finding resources on their gender journey. The Commonwealth Club has produced more than 550 online programs since the pandemic started, and we'll continue to share our events online in the future. But we're excited to be opening up again to in-person events. So head on over to the commonwealthclub.org events to see what we have coming up online and in person. So it's my honor to hand this program over to Balaam Visual, a member of the Behavioral Health Commission and one of our youth and young adult community members who is going to moderate today's production. Take it away, Balaam.
First question for you is, how do you pronounce your name? As everyone has different ways of pronouncing their names. My name is pronounced Balaam. What are your pronouns if you're comfortable, your positions in your community, and what is your gender identity? And again, only if you're comfortable. We'll start with Finn.
Hi, my name's Finn, Finn Ware. My pronouns are he, him, and my position in the community is I facilitate a transmasculine 30 plus support group at the Oakland LGBT Center. So I've been doing that for a few years now, and it's really fulfilling. I love it. And I'm a trans man.
Hi, everyone. My name is Spring Collins. I use she and her and they and them. My gender identity, I would say trans, femme, gender non-binary. I feel like it's always shifting a little bit. And then work that I do, I'm a community organizer. I host an annual retreat called Transcend. It's a 3-day retreat for trans and non-binary folks. I was just one of the organizers who, when the city decided not to do a trans march, a group of community organizers came together and put together a trans march. And we just finished that on Friday. We marched to the Castro and took up space as trans, as Black and brown people in the Castro and places that are often, not as welcoming to us. And then I also do other organizing work with various organizations. So, thank you.
Thank you, Balaam. My name is Dana Johnson. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am an LGBTQ activist. I am also a Pride Initiative Health Equity Chair for San Mateo County, as well as an LGBTQ Commissioner for San Mateo County. And newly, I am a Board of Director for the Rainbow Community Center in Contra Costa County. I guess my identity, gender identity-wise, is non-binary, masculine of center underneath the transgender umbrella. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you all. All right, we'll jump on to our next question, which is a pretty hefty one. So feel free to skip any sections of this question. Number one, what does gender identity mean to you? How would you define gender identity? And what level of importance do you think gender identity should play in society? Let's start with Dana.
So gender identity to me is basically an opportunity for an individual to express their gender identity. And what I'm saying there is actually expressing how you feel your gender is fluid, expressing the identity that fits you and that you are comfortable with while interacting within society and interacting in different environments that you may be in. I tend to not try to, I guess, define gender identity because everyone's gender identity is different and it's fluid, and that's amazing because we're all unique. So I kind of allow individuals to express that and define that themselves. So I can define mine as non-binary, masculine of centered, more on the masculine spectrum, within the trans umbrella, and non-binary, basically that I'm not identifying with either binary male or binary female. So very, very fluid. My gender is very fluid. I think it's very important. I think it's society respecting and being open and understanding to gender fluidness is also helpful, to actually make sure that an individual can feel one included but accepted to be themselves. And so I think that would be my answers to sum up everything that you asked there. And I guess I'll go ahead and send that back to you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go to you, Spring.
Yes, gender identity, the big one. For me personally, and I really agree with a lot of what Dana said, like there really is not a single story. Like I think that's really, I always try and name that when I'm like, how do I define gender or my gender? Like I'm part of a huge tapestry of trans people. Gender identity for me is really about energy. I feel like there's been like this innate knowing of like feminine energy that's been coursing through this body since, utero. And I think that it's just something that's taken me a long time to figure that out or find like words or language and acceptance for that. But she's been with me for a while. And yeah, I think that it definitely, how I am in relationship to my gender is also impacted by the world around me, being misgendered or not being seen as like a woman or a femme often impacts me. But it also is like what makes me special. And I think that, I really think that we should really work to see the unique gifts that gender, queer, and trans people have and see the light that, we bring. Because I think it would really impact the world. And it is and has already been impacting the world in really beautiful ways. Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Spring. All right, Finn, take it away.
Cool. I agree with what both of those folks just said. Everything they said. I used to, before I came out as a trans man, I came out later in life, but I used to say that I transcended gender. Not really sure what I meant by that, but that's what I used to tell people. I have a thing with the word gender identity, though, this phrase gender identity, though, because I just like the word, I just like gender, because gender identity implies that I have a gender that's separate than my gender identity. So I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. That's how I feel about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum. It's more than a spectrum. It's more than a linear spectrum. It's like one of those spectrums that's like a whole circle. Like when you have the whole color palette, it's like that, but it's a sphere, and it also goes into 4 dimensions. So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you so much, Finn. All right, we'll get into our second question. Also a pretty hefty one. So again, feel free to answer whichever sections you want or which ones you'd like to miss. All right. When did you become comfortable to freely be yourself? How did you express who you are? Where did you find support? Was there anyone or an organization that provided you with the free and brave space to be able to express yourself? Thank you. We'll start with Spring.
Hi, Spring. I'm gonna kind of work backwards to forwards, I think, a little bit. So I moved out here in 2009 to work on a summer camp called Hidden Villa. It's in Los Altos Hills, which is in like the South Bay around like kind of Palo Alto area. And it has a long history. It was the first multiracial summer camp in 1945. So it really created this platform for me to not just like teach, but also like live the work and start to explore some of my own like upbringing, some of the lenses that I was looking out of as someone who was born in Indiana. And it really allowed me a platform to start to experiment with gender. Like we would have like a costume day and things like that. and I would start to put on clothes again that early in my childhood was like reprimanded for. Like I definitely got in a lot of trouble for trying to dress up as a girl. And so this finally offered me a chance to experiment with that and be celebrated. There were definitely youth and young children that would not know how to handle someone with like long hair and a beard and a dress. But it started a conversation, and I think it started affirming it within me as I was teaching it. And so that it really over probably like a 5-year span really started the cycle of me realizing that like who I was had been there for a while, but it was like blossoming. And that's when I became Spring. And that's kind of like where that came from. But it really started from working on this wilderness preserve, this farm that did this like social justice summer camp. And I would definitely say to any youth to check it out. They do a lot of really great work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Finn, we'll go to you now.
Geez, when did I feel comfortable to freely be myself? I don't know, today. Like I feel like I'm discovering it as I go along. I don't know, does transition ever really end? I don't really know. But some of the spaces I found that were really helpful were like affinity support groups, affinity groups. So like the trans masculine group at the Pacific Center, like I met some trans folks there. I went to a couple, I'm not really into meditation, but I went to a couple like trans and gender nonconforming meditation retreats I just met more trans people. That's where I feel most supported. I feel like when I go into the wild, like the public, I feel like I kind of have to be a breed ambassador. It's a term we use for like dogs, like for a pit bull. If you have a pit bull and like they need to act a certain way in order to change people's perception about pit bulls. Well, I feel that way a little bit about being a trans person. Like I have to always have this behavior thing going on. And when I'm with a bunch of trans folks, I don't need to pretend, or I don't need to put a mask on. So yeah, I recommend that specifically. So
Thank you so much, Finn. I really appreciate that. All right, Dana, on to you now.
So I guess being freely but to be myself, I was raised in Oakland, California. So it was kind of already a liberal space to feel kind of comfortable with who you were. I went to Berkeley High School in Berkeley, and that was a very good space to be in, to just be myself. And at that time, identify and be comfortable with that identity. As I continue to grow and be older and older, I just realized that, I'm so fluid, and I started to get more and more comfortable with myself, thanks to the chosen family members that I had. Chosen family, I think, helped a lot. Maybe the different communities that I was involved in. And I want to say the passion for the activism, like really doing the activism work, just being able to engage and interact with others, and, see the different hurdles that they had to get through, empowered me to continue to be strong and confident in the person I am. And I think just to lump that all in, I want to agree with both Spring and Finn that just being in different groups and interacting with others that may have a same commonality of what you've been going through is very helpful to continue to help you feel comfortable in the person that you are, because I was able to actually talk to others, and we were able to relate in different spaces and how we can help make those spaces a little bit more safe. So I think if I was to give an organization, I would just say the organization is community, and that's what helped. So.
Thank you so much, Dana. Really appreciate your response. All right. This is the next question. It's a pretty simple one, and it has one follow-up question. Did you fear experiencing backlash when you came out to family and friends? And then your follow-up question would be, do you have any advice or words of wisdom for youth who are experiencing fear of coming out to their family and friends? Dana, we'll start with you.
When I officially first came out, there was a fear of backlash. I think also that fear was because my raising was also within church, and it was within a Pentecostal church, which is like more of a holiness type of Baptist community. It was very like, no, you cannot be LGBTQ. It was very hidden. And so coming out to like my family, who was also part of this church, and expressing my identity was very hard and difficult for me. I would usually talk about partners, and I would talk about partners in the like in the pronouns of mine. It's like, oh, so they, I would never use the pronoun of what my partner had identified with. And then I just started to get more comfortable and just said, you know what, they're just going to have to be okay with that. But the initial was very difficult. It was a difficult coming out story, and just had to continue to get that community support to continue to express, you know, hey, this is it, and this is how it's going to be. I decided no longer to go to the church that I was at because it was a very bad experience in regards of me expressing my identity, and there was backlash I was receiving from church. So I made a decision to leave, and that helped, I think, build that connection closer with me and my family so that I can express that with them. My friends were all kind of identifying similar like I was, so that wasn't very difficult to come out to them. And if I could give advice, words, experiencing fear of coming out, I would say, please come out when you're ready to. And it's also okay if you don't come out. You know, everyone expressing themselves and coming out depends on when they are comfortable and when they feel that that time is right. There is no pressure. You are unique, you are wonderful, you are loved, whether you come out or if you don't. So making sure that you're comfortable, it's a safe space for you too, and you have a good support system to help back you when that does come, if you choose.
Thank you so much, Dana. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up with the for the panelists and for those viewing that I am going out of order just to kind of keep things random. So just a heads up, should have made that clear in the beginning, so my apologies. All right, Spring, take it away.
Excuse me. So the coming out story, I feel like I've came out a couple times. So I definitely remember originally coming out like my junior year in high school, which was a really big deal in like 2002, Indiana. I definitely grew up very Catholic. In the long story, my mom's the more liberal side of Catholicism, but you know, coming out, I definitely had a lot of fear. Like everything similar to Dana, everything I was hearing preached to me was, you know, gays go to, I mean, they weren't even talking about transgender people. So it's like gays are going to hell and all this stuff. And it was like, my existence, I felt, was basically at odds with basically all of my family because they all went to church every Sunday. And I was sitting there, a little queer bee, listening and being like, this is wrong, but y'all are like eating the bread and going with it. And so I found that really challenging. It definitely gave me a lot of anxiety around coming out. I was actually outed in my school. I did not choose to come out. A partner that I slept with told my best friend, thinking that she would help me. And it actually hurt me in a lot of ways. Like I wasn't ready. And I ended up, because I was afraid my parents would find out about it, I wrote my mom like a really long letter telling her that I was like bisexual, and like left it in front of the laundry room because I couldn't even like talk to her about it. I was so nervous that like, as much as they had said they loved me, like I had watched on TV or known of people, like I would go to this little coffee shop and like I knew of homeless, like queer and trans people that had been kicked out for similar reasons. Like I didn't know. And I definitely ended up with the support that I needed from my parents in the best way they could. They didn't kick me out. They did hold me in the ways that they could in that moment. It was challenging for them. One of the things, like my mom said, was like, just don't become a drag queen. I think long term that really impacted me, even though like, I mean, I do drag sometimes, but the act, like what she was saying in that comment was like really big for me, and it really like left a mark on me. I think that my parents were also living through like the HIV epidemic and Matthew Shepard, and had a lot of fear. And my mom was very worried that like I was going to be attacked in Indiana. And so a lot of her stuff was coming from that. It was informed by that. And so I guess my advice, I definitely agree with Dana. I think that safety is the number one priority. And if you are not safe in your house, do not come out in your house. Like, you need safety. And if you can find community or allies and either friends, I mean, I think I was the AOL generation, but now people can like Google and like find more like affinity groups and things online. I know that like through COVID, there was a non-binary chat I led, and we had a lot of youth come on there who didn't feel safe in their house. And that was like their only access through COVID to talk to trans and non-binary people. So I think find ways that you can get community outside the house, and when it becomes safe, do what you need to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Spring. I really appreciate your comments, and especially resonated with the liberal Catholicism family, as I myself have that background as well. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Finn, on to you now. Thank you.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. Well, everything those two just said. And sure, of course, I feared it, but I got it in places I didn't expect I was going to get it. Like, I was in an LGBT theater company, and it was all cis gay men and straight women, straight cis women. And I expected them to welcome me with open arms, and that didn't happen at all. And I was just like so heartbroken. So my advice would be definitely when you feel safe, don't do it when you feel, when in places, trust your instincts. Also, sometimes like the hard conversation of, is going to happen when it's someone you want to keep in your life, like your mom, if you want to keep your mom in your life. So my advice for that situation would be come out to that person when you're ready. And only when you feel ready, because when you feel centered, and like, because sometimes they're going to say stuff that's just going to knock you off your feet, or they might be totally welcome. You don't know, but that, and also a good idea is to have, if you're coming out to someone that you're unsure about what the reaction is going to be, to set up a friend call afterward. So like have your friend who you're out to that supports you, make sure they're on standby to help you process, or or do it right before. I'm really pushing these affinity groups, but do it right before a group. So like you can process in the group. That I did that, and that was really helpful for me. So, because wow, sometimes people say the darndest things, and you're like, really, I can't believe that was your response to me sharing my soul with you. Okay. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Finn. I really appreciate your response. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our fourth question, which is a lot lighter. Where did you find support? Was there any organization that provided it? Actually, I believe I already asked that question. So we'll move on to number 5. My bad. Currently, there has been a lot of conversation around the degree of challenges for youth who identify as non-binary or trans. do you find these issues to be greater in today's societies? And what are some challenges youth who identify as non-binary or trans face? And as a follow-up, which is optional, of course, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll ask the follow-up afterwards if we have more time. Thank you. We'll start with you, Spring.
Yeah, I think that there are moments where I'm like, oh, like there have been a lot of changes, and I want to like name that there have been. I think that on a national level, we're seeing like so much like propaganda and fear mongering for like these trans youth, and it's really impacting like youth in very like negative ways. And it's also just, I feel like it's this like right-wing propaganda to get like conservatives like to leash onto more like stuff that they can like hate people for. And I think it's really unfortunate. On the other side of things, I really like going into schools and seeing like the way that like youth talk to each other and are coming out. And it seems like everybody's like a little bit gender non-conforming these days. And like there's more acceptance for it. I think that there's like the good and the bad and the ugly. And I think that there's still a lot more work that needs to be happening. And we really need to make sure that youth can access like safely medical. And I think that there's also like ways in which that's impacted by race and class. And it's really important to just prioritize youth and ask them what their challenges are and center their voices for the change that is going to impact them the most.
Thank you so much, Spring. All right, Finn, we'll go on to you. Thank you.
I mean, everything Spring said, center youth, center, like ask them what they need. I mean, the only thing I could really add is like when I was growing up, being trans, not only was it not an option, but it was like, I didn't even know what it was. Like, I didn't even know what it was. Like, I didn't know what trans people were. I'd never heard of trans people. So like, especially trans men, like trans men were like totally invisible. And so I didn't even know that was a thing until like, maybe I'm going to say 10 years ago. That's how out of it I was. So, but like the internet you have now. So that's something that wasn't even around when I was a kid. So yeah, but yeah, center the kids' voices, like ask them what they need for sure. That's how I.
Thank you so much, Finn. Youth power is very important. And as a former youth commissioner and the first non-binary youth commissioner who was chair, I totally resonate with that. So thank you so much. All right, Dana, take it away.
Well, I'm not going to have really that much to add as well, because I think Finn and Spring hit it right on, and you are as well, Balam. Youth power is important, and centering youth and what they need, their services, their resources, asking them. That's the best way to actually see how you can provide the best services for them. I would say that I agree with Spring in regards of the propaganda. I think for me, the politics of the things is really bothering their youth. They're not adults. And so when the politics is involved so highly, it bothers me, not letting the youth be a youth and not centering what their needs are at that time. So I think that would be the bother, but I agree if we could try to center what's best for them, that's a way that we can try to help them and work with them the most.
Thank you so much, Dana, and thank you all for such magnificent questions for our youth so far. All right, number 6, the LGBT community has experienced mental health challenges, particularly around youth. thoughts of suicide and homelessness as an example. Can you share why the community was hugely impacted and expand more what you see students navigating? For example, are these issues should be considered public issues, structural issues, or should they be considered what many people like to label as, in order to dismiss these issues, as psychiatric and personal troubles? We'll start with you, Finn.
Wow, that's a big one. Yes. Well, trans and queer kids are more likely to be rejected by their parents than cis kids. So that's got so many implications, obviously. And how we can fix it. Well, I mean, we can elect and appoint and hire more trans and queer people. We could do, instead of having the cis ally spokesperson for them, maybe like have the actual trans, like, have a trans person. That would be cool. I mean, I got to vote for a trans person for the bus, the transit, Alameda Transit. She didn't win, but I was so excited to vote for her last year. Because we're the best advocates for our own community. So yeah, I think I'll just leave that.
Thank you so much, Finn. All right, Spring, we'll go to you.
So in terms of just like mental health challenges, like I think that we are still pathologizing trans bodies. We're pathologizing Black bodies, non-able, but like differently able bodies. Like I think that until we stop seeing this as like a sickness or something wrong with people and do more affirming care, like I feel like that's just really like what's stopping a lot of this. It stopped me from accessing care. Like I had really bad therapists, and like I finally found like a gender affirming therapist who is also trans, but I didn't have that growing up, and it would have really shifted a lot of the way I navigated my life. Like I was told that like my addiction stemmed from my gender and all of this stuff, and they just like brought this all together but didn't actually provide resources, and it was like a lot of shame, and it came from like people who didn't actually know what they were talking about. They weren't informed by like a lived experience or even like proximity to the issues. I also feel like there's a lot of this, like, especially with like hormone therapy and stuff for trans youth. I hear a lot like, oh, well, what if they change their mind? Or like, this is like altering their bodies for a long time. And it's like, I really feel like that's so detached. These are adults who are like, how many years older? And I knew who I was a lot younger than my parents knew. Like when I was like 3 or 4, I probably knew I was a little girl, and like it was the world telling me that I wasn't, that started to impact me and shift who I was. But I knew who I was from a very young age. And if we have people who affirm that and who help you navigate that and are there to like listen and not tell you, then I think that people would probably navigate the world in a more gender affirming way. And I think that that would really be a beautiful way for systems in place to kind of like switch towards that. I think that that's informed by youth and should be informed by youth. And I really think that if like mental health practitioners navigated that way, it would really shift kind of how people get support. There were a few more questions. Balam, can you ask like the follow-up ones? I kind of forgot, I apologize.
Basically, whether you feel like these issues are structural, if they're public, or if they should be considered what many, a lot more on the conservative side like to say, they're psychiatric or personal troubles. So what type of label would you try to add these type of issues or category?
Yeah, these are structural issues. This is structural racism, structural transphobia. Like all of these are incorporated in every aspect of like employment, housing, mental health. Like everything a trans youth is trying to access is going to be informed by all of these structural discriminatory practices. Until we like work on the root of that, I don't really feel like much is going to change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Spring. All right, Dana, take it away.
I was sitting back here inspired listening to Finn and Spring. And Spring, you touched on so many important, amazing points to where I agree in so many ways. I think the lack of acceptance, the lack of inclusiveness, not receiving affirmed services is really causing a lot of mental health issues, unfortunately, with youth. I think, Spring, you are correct. The fact that as adults, and you are not actually respecting and affirming the gender that is that you feel you are in, that you've already actually damaged, that youth. Because already you're feeling like you can't, if you can't identify and be comfortable with that, unfortunately in your home with your parents, then society definitely isn't going to accept you in your mind. So I agree that that's the first step there. I also agree with in regards of like therapists, if you're not able to relate even with lived experience, or maybe with the work that you're doing, then you're also not helping actually strengthen that person. I've engaged in some interactions with therapists where it's like you're actually doing more damage than you are helping, and I think taking accountability of understanding that this is not your scope. You need to step away, and that's really issue structural wise. I think the system of therapy maybe needs to be changed as well. Systematically, it's not set correctly. I mean, if we look at the DSM-4, they just removed that your gender identity as being something like psychotic. So I think structural issue indeed. Systematically, we have to change this. It's terrible. If we look at the different surveys that's been taken, let's maybe say from the Trevor Project, and suicide, unfortunately, is a high cause. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of being accepted, not being included, the lack of affirming care. So important. And I hope that structural some things change here, and that system as well get changed.
Thank you so much, everyone. Unfortunately, we are a bit short on time, but I would like to ask one more question. You're all in very important positions in your community to really enact change. And you come across a lot of students and a lot of youth who are discovering themselves, who are asking questions and looking for support. What have you done in your community life to support students discovering their authentic identity, especially in the roles that you play in your community? We'll start with you, Dana. We do have to, unfortunately, keep it a bit short in order to make it into a public Q&A, but I do want to hear your guys' responses around this. Thank you. All right, Dana, take it away.
So just shortly, I'm going to just say I've been activist. I've been a voice. I've been trying to be the best of community leader that I can be, to uplift, to help, to provide strength, services, to make the youth feel accepted and make them feel like their voices matter. Every community member matters. And so just trying to make sure that I'm providing the same services that I would provide for an adult to assist them, that I'm going to assist the youth for their specific, and maybe an older adult as well for their specific things. So activism, I'm very passionate about that. I think that activism has helped been like the key for me to actually do the things that I'm able to do within the community.
Thank you so much, Dana. All right, we'll go to you, Finn.
Cool. I think what I've done mostly, people reach out to me a lot for resources because my email is out there on the Oakland LGBT Center website. So I try to connect people with resources, all the local groups. But I think the biggest thing I do is that I'm visibly trans. And I fight a lot with people. I fight for my right to be visibly trans in a lot of spaces. Like when I was in a bio class at Laney, and they were talking about, we were talking about reproduction, and they're like, they're like, well, when the woman gets pregnant, I'm like, well, when she was talking about birth control, actually, I'm like, well, men can get pregnant, and she's like, no, they can't, and I'm all like, I'm a man and I can get pregnant. And she's like, well, there's so few of you, and I'm like, you need to stop right now. And I like shut that teacher down, and like, because I can handle it. I'm an adult and I can stand up to this teacher and not have the rug pulled out from underneath me. But if I was like, questioning 18-year-old kid or whatever, anyway, so that's what I can do. I can throw a stink whenever I have the spoons to throw a stink, I will. So.
Thank you so much, Finn. And I did want to acknowledge that I unfortunately accidentally used guys to describe everyone as a group. I do try my best to use everyone. I did want to acknowledge that I accidentally used that terminology. And so I just want to acknowledge this and apologize for doing that. Unfortunately, Spring, she unfortunately has technical difficulties for now. So we'll move on to Q&A real quick, but hopefully when she is back, we'll try to revisit that question. Oh, never mind, Spring just made it. All right, Spring, would you like to take on the question? Or would you like for me to repeat it for you, Spring?
Oh, yes, can you repeat the question? Apologies.
Yes. So, as an adult and as someone who, holds many important roles in your community, you've come across a lot of students, who are having a lot of questions around their gender, around their sexuality, looking for support. What are some of the, and trying to just have some support and trying to discover their authentic selves. So what have you done in your roles to provide that support and that space for them to have that authentic identity and such?
Thank you. I think it's really important to live visible and like proud. I think that I am definitely, it's been weird in my family to kind of be like, the trans person, and now like I have cousins coming to me and being like, hey, I'm trans, and like telling me first. And it's like, I feel like if I wouldn't have like lived authentically me, or I would have been in some ways, like there were times I'd go back to Indiana and kind of like code switch a little bit or shift around who I was. And I think it was this time, there was, a time that I went back and I was like, I'm just going to be me. And I started living that. And I think that it allows me to like, living visible allows other people to see me. And it has brought a lot of ways of me being able to talk to you, especially going back to the farm. A couple of years ago, I did like a reunion tour at the summer camp, and, there were youth that had remembered me, and there was a youth that was like a counselor in training, and they were identifying differently than how I had known them. And they told me how I had impacted that and how I had shifted kind of how they felt in their body. And to like hear that, it feels like that is what it helps me. And I feel like it's passing that knowledge down and sharing that with youth as we get older.
Thank you so much, Spring. And just double checking, everyone's already gone for this question, right? All right, just double checking just to make sure. All right, we're going to go into Q&A real quick. Are there any public questions? This is your time to ask them. All righty. Well, at any time, if you have a question, please feel free to let us know. And we'll just move on with the program for now and continue our questions. But at any time anyone would like to start Q&A, please let me know and we'll move into it. All right. So this one, I feel we've touched in on a bit, but I think it's one that we should try to elaborate more on that, I think is very important, especially with a lot of our allies personally that I'm viewing having a certain, savior complex towards our communities and really taking up a lot of space. And with that said, why is it important for youth to have queer role models, especially trans and non-binary role models? Why is it important that we ourselves be involved in these spaces and be role models ourselves and having role models for young people to look up to? We'll start with you, Dana.
I think it's important for the youth to be able to see someone that they can relate to, lived experience wise, and be able to actually have that conversation. I think as I'm looking back at when I was a youth, I think if I had more conversation with people that may have identified in non-binary, and I'm not even sure if there were those that identified then, but just maybe more conversation, more support, and actually seeing and experience those that did identify, that maybe as I grew into my identity, it would be a little bit more of I won't say easier, but maybe comfortable space in different environments I'm in. So I think that being in this space, being that voice, being able to advocate and help strengthen the youth so that they are able to advocate for themselves, giving them that voice of and that encouragement of this is, the things I went through, and this is the things that you might actually see, unfortunately, but here's a way that you can actually try to get past this. And so I think that lived experience and being able to be that person. I don't want to just say like a superhero or anything, but I kind of just feel like, in the spaces that we're in, that hero that someone can look up to say, when I'm having tough days, I can continue because I've listened to this role model that had these tough times. And, I feel that if they can do it, I can do it as well. So I do think that I want to say the lived experience is very important. Yes, our educational things we're doing and the different stuff like that is important as well. But I think there's nothing like that lived experience.
Thank you so much for that, Dana. Thank you. All right, Spring, we'll go on to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I would be who I am today if it wasn't for role models or mentorship or non-blood family. I think that they've been a lifeline for me. I definitely want to name that I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for Black trans people. My best friend who co-organizes me, Transcend, they have a way of inviting people in that I've never seen in any other group. And I think that it's really allowed me, it's shined a light on me, but also, it's allowed me to also use some of my privilege to move in spaces and shift narratives as well. But it's allowed me kind of I feel like mentorship and role models is not necessarily a hierarchy. I think that you can both learn and teach, and that it doesn't matter if you're the youth or the elder or somewhere in the middle. We both have something to teach each other. And I think that when you are actually able to connect on some lived experience or whatever the experience be, that it really, it saved my life. I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't feel like I could walk down the street how I look. And, I don't always feel safe, but I definitely feel confident. And I definitely feel like I am who I am. And I wouldn't have that without queer and trans mentorship and role models and family.
Thank you so much, Spring. All right, Finn, on to you now. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think looking back, I would have, having a mentor or a role model would have given me a light at the end of the tunnel. I do remember there was we had this one teacher in my high school who was openly gay, at least. And he, one of my fellow students came, he was a man and he came to, or I guess he was a boy at the time, whatever. And he came to school dressed in a dress. and the principal sent him home. And then for the next month, my teacher wore a dress. And this was in like 1987. So I just thought that was amazing. And I still, that teacher is still my superhero, although I wasn't out to him or anything. But yeah, I mean, to have a trans adult would have been great I could have gone to them, like, because bullying is a really big issue. So if I was bullied, I could go to the like my mentor and just have a reality check, be like, this was what happened to me. And like, you know, if I was the mentor, I would be like, you know, that was wrong. And to hear that resounding, like, that behavior is not acceptable. It is not okay that you're being bullied. I think that would help. So I think that's why mentors and peer, I guess, role models are important. But yeah, Frank Blondell, he'll always be my superhero. Coming to school every day for a month in a dress. I mean, I think he did it for longer than a month. And he was like a big, like, biker dude too. So it was extra obvious. He was great. I loved him. So.
Thank you so much, Finn. You know, I definitely feel on the role models. Unfortunately for me, I come from a family with a lot of stigma. But RuPaul's Drag Race really, really got me and really made me feel more comfortable on my gender identity. And I still remember my main role model in high school, his drag name was, and forgive me for my language, Weska Thunderback. She was my favorite great performer. She eventually won All Stars. So she had a lot of influence in the way that I like to express myself. So thank you for that. And then sort of as a follow-up question, you know, I did mention our allies. You know, there are a lot of young people who may not identify within these genders, but would like to be an ally. You know, what are some asks that you have for our allies that are trying to be involved and who might be unintentionally taking up space? You know, what would your advice be to them, and what are your asks from our allies that you would like to have for them? All right, start with you, Finn.
I would ask that if I had a friend who was an ally, to take their ego out of being an ally, because a lot of people have, I mean, and I'm working on this as a white person as well, but a lot of people have an idea about themselves as an ally, like, oh, but I'm an ally, you know, that's their response. It's like a knee-jerk response. And it makes them less good listeners. Because to ally is a verb. I mean, you need to ally somebody. You don't need to look, I am an ally. So that's short and sweet, but that's what I.
Thank you so much, Finn. All right, Dana, we'll go on to you now.
I think for me, I think the important thing is, because I have ally friends, and just not taking up the space and understanding the privilege of an ally in your voice. There's some times where I don't need you so much to talk, but I need you more to listen. And understand that, you know, this isn't your space. There is times where I am going to need for you to speak up, but then there's also times when I'm not. And so understanding that and being okay and comfortable with knowing that, I think that's important. Also, understanding when you should actually take up that space and how to. So as an example, if I am coming into a space that may be more cisgender type of binary space, and you are identifying me as your trans friend, making sure that you do this in a way of not isolating me, like, well, that's my friend and they are trans and you need to say they, them, making sure that you use your words and your language to where you're making me feel more included. Like, hey, this is my name is, and here's my pronouns. And then my friend pronouns is this. And so just understanding your space and your leverage there.
Thank you so much, Dana. All right, Spring, we'll take it on to you.
Yeah, Dana, I definitely, that last part for sure. I think I always get that, and they use they, them, and it's like this like way of outing me, but not like, it's like they're just trying to help. And it's like this really nuanced thing that I sometimes don't know how to talk about. So I think like first off is like, do your own homework first. I think that is like the biggest thing for me. Like people always want to be an ally, but then they want to ask me 1,000 questions. And I think that I need you to come with like at least a trans 102. And then like, just like, I don't want you to tell me you're doing it. I like want to see it. Like those are like the two big things for me. And then just like, this is a little bit more nuanced, but I think that even just how allyship happens like in a racial way and trans and non-binary spaces is like, who's like taking up power and like, what is the like, how are we like gonna step back? Because I think that there are white, trans, and non-binary people in positions of power, but there are also Black and brown trans people who could be in that position of power. So like, how are you using your platform and allyship to like transition that power or like move into more equitable ways of like having organizational power. So I really wanted to name that too as like another way that allyship can happen in the trans community.
Thank you so much, Spring. So it does seem like we're a bit short on time. I'm not sure if anyone would like to make any closing remarks. We'll start with you, Dana, if you would like to make some closing remarks.
Just thank you all for having me here on the panel. It was an honor to be on the side here of Finn and Spring and just soak in their energy and their passion for the work they're doing. So thank you. And to all the youth out there, you are unique, you are amazing. And hopefully we can continue to do the work and be the voice and be that space that you need. You are great, amazing, unique people.
Thank you so much, Dana. All right, Spring, would you like to make any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Carolyn, for trusting me and bringing me into this space. I really appreciate you all, and I don't know any of the panelists or the moderator, and I really look forward to getting to know you all more. I really enjoyed hearing what you all had to say and what you bring to the table. I did mention that I do Transcend, which is a retreat for trans and non-binary people. We are looking to do a youth retreat in 2022. I am not a youth. So if you know youth leaders, if you are a youth leader, please reach out to us. I mean, my IG is Sprung T Black. I'll say that. You can find me that way. I don't know if they're dropping our handles or stuff in here, but yeah, please reach out to me if that's something that interests you. Thank you.
Thank you, Spring. I'll definitely be reaching out. Would definitely love to learn a lot more and, share all that info as well to our communities. All right, Finn, wrap it up for us. Thank you.
It was an honor to be here. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for this opportunity. This is great. And, I'm really excited, and I would like to actually, anyone wants to reach out to me as well. I'm totally down for that. So, yay.
Thank you so much, Finn. And that's pretty much it for our panelists. And we'll now move into closing remarks for myself and Carolyn. Thank you all for being here. It's amazing to be in a space where we are considered trans and non-binary, just because it's very rare for me to ever be in a space where there's more than just myself and one other person, so to be in a space where there's so many of us and to be able to have a safe and brave space to discuss these issues, it's definitely great. And for me as a sociology student, as someone who's trying to become an investigator of society, I don't like using researcher. There's a lot of colonial issues with that term. I like to use investigator. There's a lot that I have to take into consideration, which, as we all know, life and society is a lot more abstract and a lot less linear than what Western culture likes to portray it as. And you all just gave me so much to think, so much to process and to consider. And I'm sure so many youth are going to take so much with them. And, as a behavioral health commissioner, as the vice chair, anything that the community needs, please feel free to reach out to me. My Instagram is queen-balam or _balam. My phone number is on there. My email's on there. I try to be very accessible to our communities because it's not every day that we have a transitional age youth who is non-binary, who is on a commission and who is vice chair. So please utilize me as a resource. Don't know how long I'll be here. We did lose one member who was non-binary. So if anyone from here or the public would like to also apply to become a commissioner, let me know and we'll make that happen. Thank you so much. Take it on, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Balam, and thank you to all my amazing panelists. I was just amazed and in awe of all of the wisdom that you dropped. And I'm going to take some personal privilege in saying that all of you are my friends and you're all amazing. So I must be pretty awesome because you're all my friends. And I just want to give one other shout out to our education department. We are looking to do more programming for our youth and young adults, not just in our LGBTQ community, but in all sectors of our community. So please stay connected with us. Our Instagram handle is CWCEDU. So you can stay connected with us there. You can email us at education@commonwealthclub.org. And also, if you are registered to view today's panel, you will be receiving a survey, and we would certainly appreciate if you would fill out the survey and let us know a little bit more about what our youth are looking for and how we can better service you from our department. And as always, visit commonwealthclub.org/events for any of our club events and our YouTube to view them as well. So thank you again, and everyone have a great evening. Happy Pride Month.
Pride Month.
Yay.